Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, good night, everyone. So I want to say thank you for your joining and attendance this presentation for tonight. So our topics for this presentation is about learning statistics with GASP. So we continue for the first chapter. So why do we learn statistics? So maybe some of us like have have asked the same question, like why do you even have to learn statistics? Like this is really difficult subject for many people. I think many student feels like a statistics is difficult, stressful, and sometimes even boring. We see data, tables, and we feel like overwhelmed. And it can feel like statistics is just about calculating numbers again and again. But today I want to show that statistics is not only about numbers. Okay, um, let me give you a simple analogy. Imagine you are a doctor and the patient comes to you and say like, I feel sick. And will you just maybe guess the why the patient is sick? First, you will check the data first. So statistics work in the same way. It helps us to avoid guessing and help us to avoid saying like, I think this is true without evidence. And that is why statistics is important. It trains our mind to think critically. So maybe statistic is not our enemy. Maybe statistics is actually a tool to protect us from being misled. Okay, and this is exactly what chapter 1 explains, like why do we learn statistics. Let's move to the main explanation. So this chapter explains that humans often have bias. Bias is mean like claim. So we may judge information based on the intuition, personal experience, or belief. And the books introduce belief bias, which is meant people tend to accept information that feels true and reject information that goes against their belief, even if it is logical. This shows that humans are not always objective. Therefore, a statistic helps reduce bias and support education based on evidence rather than feelings. And the chapter also discusses Simpson's paradox, where overall data shows one result, but group data show a different result. The Berkeley admission case is used as an example to show that data can be misleading if not analyzed carefully. In addition, psychology is often considered a statistical science because human behavior varies greatly. Statistics help researchers understanding this variation and identify patterns. And the chapter also highlights the statistics is important in everyday life. We often see data in news and social media, and without statistical knowledge, people may misunderstand the information. However, statistics is only a tool. It cannot replace critical thinking or good research planning. Statistics help interpret data, but conclusions still require logic and truth. Okay, we move to the slide 2. It's about a brief introduction to research design. After understanding the importance of statistics, we also need to remember that statistics alone is not enough. Good research requires a strong plan and proper data collection. Therefore, this discussion focuses on brief introduction to research design, which explain how research should be structured to produce valid and trustworthy results. So this chapter explained that before analyzing data, researchers must understand how data is collected. Data collection is a process of measurement of behavior and mental process. The chapter introduced scales of measurement, including nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scales. These scales are important because wait a minute. Okay. These scales are important because they determine the type of statistical analysis that can be used. Next, the chapter explains reliability, which means consistency in measurement. If a measurement tool is used multiple times, it should produce similar results. Without reliability, data cannot be trusted. And the chapter also discusses variables, including predictor variables or independent variables, and outcome variables or dependent variables. And the relationship between this variable is the basis of research. Another topic is the difference between experimental and non-experimental research. Experimental research involves manipulation and control, while the non-experimental research focuses on observation. And this chapter also explains validity, which refers to whether a study measures what it is intended to measure. Types of validity include internal and external validity. Low validity can weaken research conclusion. And last, the chapter discusses confounds, which are additional factors that may influence research results without being noticed. Therefore, strong research design is necessary to produce accurate findings. So overall, chapter 2 shows that statistics alone is not enough. Researchers must also design study carefully so that the data collected is valid and reliable. Okay, for the conclusion about this part 1, chapter 1, provide basic knowledge about the importance of statistics and research design. Statistics help reduce bias and understanding data, while research design ensures that studies are well planned and findings are trustworthy. Together, they are support reliable scientific research. So that's all that I can deliver to you about uh, chapter 1, and the next chapter will be explained by my friends. For Irma, time is yours.
Okay, next is chapter 2. Chapter 2 is getting started with JASP. In this part, the book introduces JASP as a statistical software that is designed to be simple and user-friendly. JASP is free and can be used without any cost and without requiring advanced technical skills. Then, one of the main features of JASP is the analysis menu where all statistical procedures are accessed. Users do not know do not need to write on any code. Instead, they simply select the types of analysis they want to perform, and the output is generated automatically. Before running any analysis, data must be read into JASP. The software allows users to import to from different files formats such as Excel, CSV, and SPSS files. Once the data are read, they appear in the spreadsheet view, where rows represent observation and columns represent variables. Another important aspect introduced in this section is the use of measurement scales, such as ordinal, and scale. Setting the correct measurement scale is essential because it determines which statistical analyses are appropriate. Um, Finally, yes, allow users to save all their work in a single project file, and this file stores both the datasets and the analysis result, making it easy to continue working later without repeating the process. Okay, next.
Okay, thank you, Irma, for the
Next.
explanation. The next to the next explanation.
Okay. The next is descriptive statistic. After learning how to use JASP, the next topic is descriptive statistic. Descriptive statistics are used to sorry. Descriptive statistics are used to summarize and rather than to test hypotheses. This step is crucial because it helps researchers understand the basic characteristics of the datasets before moving on to more advanced analysis. The first group of descriptive statistics discussed in this section is search of central tendency, which include the mean, median, and mode. And these measures describe the typical or central value of the data. In addition to central tendency, the book also discusses measures of variability, such as range, variance, and standard deviation. These measures show how much the data spread around the central value and indicate the level of variation within a dataset. Um, the shapes of the data distribution is examined using smoothness and kurtosis. Sameness shows whether the distribution is symmetrical or scaled, while kurtosis describes how big or flat the distribution is. This also allows descriptive statistics to be calculated separately for each group, which is useful when comparing characteristics across different categories or experimental conditions. And lastly, these sections introduce standard scores, which indicate the position of a score relative to the mean and standard deviation. Standard scores make it easier to compare values across different variables or groups. Okay, next. Okay, next is drawing graphs. The final topic in this part is drawing graphs, which focuses on visualizing data. Because they because because they allow the data allow the data to be present visually, making patterns and trends easier to identify compared to numerical tables alone. And one of the main graphical tools discussed is the histogram. Histograms are used for numerical data and by the frequency distribution. They help researchers examine the shape or distribution shapes of the distribution, including normally and skewness. Another important graph is the Vogt plot. Vogt plots display the median, quartiles, and potential of outliers in the data. They are especially useful for comparing distributions across different groups. This also provides an option to save graph as image file. This image, this image can be directly used in research reports, assignments, or presentation slides, making the reporting process more efficient. And then to conclude, describing and displaying data with depth focus on three main aspects, then summarizing data using descriptive statistics and visualizing data using graphs. And this part emphasizes that understanding data through numerical summarize and visual representation is a crucial step before conducting inferential statistical.
Record. Irma.
Oi, on cam kah? Okay, maybe that's all I can do first. Uh, the next slide will be explained by my friend.
Okay, thank you so much, Irma, for the explanation. And the next is chapter 3 will be presented by my friend. The time is yours.
Okay, next. Okay, in this section, introduction to probability. The first, how are probability and statistic different? Is it explained that probability and statistic have different roles but are closely related probability factors and the theory and is used to predict the likelihood of an event before data are collected. Statistics, on the other hand, factors and data and can use to analyze data and draw conclusions after the data have been collected. In simple terms, probability moves from theory to result, while statistics move from data to conclusion. Okay, next in the section, what does probability mean? Probability is defined as a measure of how likely an event is to occur. The value of probability ranges from 0 to 1. A value of a 0 means the event is impossible, while a value of 1 means the event is certain. This concept helps us understand and measure accurately in a mathematical way. In this section, basic probability theory. The basic ideas of probability are discussion. These include the concept of a sample space, which is the set of all possible outcomes of an experiment and events, which are subtasks of the sample space. This section also explains basic probability rules that are used to conclude probability correctly. These basic ideas are very important as the foundation for understanding probability distribution. And binomial distribution. The binomial distribution is used when an experiment has only two possible outcomes, such as success or failure. The experiment is repeated several times, and the probability of success remain the same in each trial. The binomial distribution is widely used in research, especially when dealing with discrete data with two categories. Next, the normal distribution. The normal distribution is discussed. Is it the most common distribution in statistics and has able safe and symmetric form? In a normal distribution, the mean, media, and mode are located at the same point. Many real-life data, such as exams, scores, and human follow a normal distribution, which makes it very important in statistic analysis. And in the section, other useful distribution, is it explained this besides the binomial and normal distribution, there are other distributions that are also useful in statistics. These distributions are used for specific types of data and conduction. Choosing the correct distribution helps research analyze data more accurate. And the last summary. In the summary section, the material is reviewed by emphasizing that probability is a fundamental concept in inferential statistics. Understanding probability and distribution help research perform estimation and hypothesis testing properly. Next. Estimating unknown quantities from a sample. The first in this section, I will explain estimating unknown quantity from a sample, which discuss how we estimate unknown value in population using data from a sample. The first in the section samples, population, and sampling. The difference between a population and sample is explained. A population is the entire group of objects or individuals that are focus of a study, while a sample is a smaller part taken from the population to be analyzed. The process of selecting a sample is called sampling. Samples are used because there are more events in terms of time, cost, and effort, but they must represent the population to ensure accurate result. Next is the law of large number. This law states that the larger the sample size, the closer the sample result will be to the true value of the population. This means that small samples tend to produce less stable results, while large samples provide more accurate estimates. And the next session, sampling distribution and the control limit term. Sampling distribution and the control limits are discussed as sampling distribution how a statistic, such as the sample mean is disturbed when many samples are taken from the same population. The central limit terms that the distribution of the sample mean while approach a normal distribution as the sample size becomes large, even if the population data are not normal distribution. This concept is very important in internal statistics. Next, estimating population parameters. The process of estimating population parameter is explained. Population parameters are the true value of the population, such as the mean or proportion, which are usually unknown. To estimate these, we use sample statistics such as the sample mean or sample proportion. Process is called estimation, and the result is used as approximation of the population value. In the next section, estimating a confidence interval. The concept of a confidence interval is explained. Unlike point estimation, which produce only a single value, a combination interval provides a range of value that is likely to contain the population parameter. Confidence interval so the level of confidence in the estimate. For example, 16% confidence interval means that we are confident the population parameter lies within that range. And the last, summary section, emphasizing that estimation from a sample is a key part of statistical research. By using samples, the law of large number, sampling distribution, and confidence intervals, research can estimate population value in a scientific and responsibility way. Next. Okay, in this section, hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing is a statistical procedure used to make decisions based on sample data about a claim or assumption concerning a population. The first, a manager of hypothesis. That there are different types of hypotheses. The main types are the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Okay, the next two types of error: raster statistic and sampling distribution. Making dissection, the p-value of a test report reporting the rules of a hypothesis test, running the hypothesis test in practice, effect size, sample size, and power. Some issue to consider summary. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for the explanation, Dora. So we are moved to the chapter 4. And in this chapter, it will be explained by Aisyah and Nurliani. So, Aisyah and Nurliani, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. And now we will move to chapter 4. That is statistical tools. Okay. Now I will presenting the materials from part 4 is statistical tools in the book Learning Statistic with GASP for chapter 9 and 4. 9 and 10, sorry. And for the first is categorical data analysis. This chapter focus on analyzing variables measured on a nominal or categorical scale. For the first is chi-square or goodness of fit test. This test is used to determine if the observed frequency distribution of a single categorical variable match a specific theoretical or expected distribution. And then that is test of independence. This test is used to examine whether there is a relationship or association between two categorical variables. And the last is assumptions. These assumptions cover two things, that is expected frequencies and independence. First is expected frequencies. All expected counts should be sufficiently large for the chi-square sampling distribution to be valid. And then that is independence. The observations must be independent of one another. One subject's data should not influence another's. And then there is continuity correction. A specific adjustment sometimes applied to improve accuracy in certain chi-square test. And then next. Okay, please next. Okay, thank you. Next is comparing two means. This chapter covers the various versions of the t-test used to compare the means of two different sets of data. For the first is one sample test, include one sample z-test and one sample t-test. One sample z-test compares a sample mean to a known population mean when the population standard deviation is known. And then one sample t-test. One sample t-test is compares a sample mean when the population standard deviation is unknown and must be estimated from the sample. And then that is independent sample t-test. And this independent sample t-test includes student t-test and Wells t-test. First, this test compares the means of two independent groups, assuming that both populations have equal variance or homogeneity of variance. And that is Wells t-test, a more robust version of the independent sample t-test that does not require the assumption of equal variance. And then that is paired sample t-test, used for repeated measures designs where the same participants are measured twice. And that is non-parametric alternatives. Wilson and Mann-Whitney test. We use when data is not normally distributed, as they rely on ranks rather than raw means. And the last is effect size. Effect size is measured using cohents to quantify the magnitude of the difference between the two means. Okay, I think that's all that I can explain for you. Next, my friend will present it. Norliani.
because I'm having a problem with it. So I will continue explaining the material. Okay, correction and linear regression. In statistics, we often want to understand the relationship between two variables. For example, we may ask, does studying longer increase exam score or does age influence income? To answer a question like this, we use correction and regression. Okay, so in this section, I will explain 5 main points. First, correlation. Correlation tells you how two variables move together. If both variables increases together, the relationship is positive. If one increases while the other decreases, the relationship is negative. However, correlation does not mean causation. Just because two variables are related does not mean one causes the other. The main be other factor involved. And two, scatter plots. Scatter plots is graph used to show the relationship between two variables. Is the represent one data point. By looking at the patterns of the dots, we can see if the relationship is positive, negative, or if there is not clear relationship. If we does from a line pattern and suggestion a linear relationship. And three, what is a linear regression model? Linear regression is used to predict one variable from another variable. It helps us understand how much one variable changes when other variable change. For example, we can predict exam score based on study time. If study time increases, the model can estimate how much the score may increases. And for hypothesis test for regression, in regression analysis, we test whether the relationship between variable is statistically significant. We usually test whether the independent variable tree has effect on the dependent variable. If the result is significant, it means the relationship is unlikely to happen by chance. If the result is not significant, it means we do not have enough evidence to say there is a real relationship. And five, assumptions of regression. Regression analysis has several important assumptions. First, the relation should be linear. This means the pattern should form a straight line relationship. And second, the data should not contain extreme outlier that can the results. And third, the error should be independent and normally distributed. If these assumptions are violated, the results might not be correct. Next. Okay, compile means one-way ANOVA. Sometimes research want to compare more the two groups. For example, we may want to compare exam score from three different teaching methods. If we only compare two groups, we use a test. But when we compare three or more groups, we use ANOVA, which stands for Analysis for Variance. One way ANOVA helps use test whether there is a difference between groups mean. In this section, I will explain 5 important parts of one-way ANOVA. First, an illustrative dataset. In the beginning, we usually look at example dataset. This helps us understand why ANOVA is needed. If we compare many groups using multi-test, we increases the risk of making error. ANOVA solves this problem by testing all groups at the same time. So this makes the analysis more accurate and reliable. And two, how ANOVA works. ANOVA works by comparing two types of variation between groups and variation within groups. If the difference between groups is larger and the difference with groups, it suggests that group means are not equal. ANOVA does not tell you use which specific group is different. It only tells you that at least one group is different. And three, effect size. Effect size tells you how large the difference is between group. Even if the ratio is statistically significant, the difference might be small. Effect size helps you understand the practical importance of the results. And four, compression and post-hoc tests. If ANOVA show a significant result, we need to find out which group are different. Post-hoc tests help you compare groups one by one in controlled way. And last assumption of one-way ANOVA has several assumptions. First, the data in each group should be normally distributed. And second, the variance between groups should be similar. And third, the observation should be independent. So if the assumptions are not met, the results might not be reliable. Please, next. Okay, factorial ANOVA. So is used when we have more than one independent variable. This method allows use to examine more complex relationship. Factorial ANOVA help use see not only the main effects of each factor, but also whether the factor interact with other. Okay. First, factorial ANOVA wants balance the size, not interaction. In a Boolean design, each group has the same number of participants. In the simple version, we assume there is not interaction between the variables. This means its variable affect the results independently. This helps us understand the basic structure of factorial ANOVA. And the second factorial ANOVA 2 interaction always in many real situations variable may interact and interacts mean the effect of one variable depends on the level of other variable. For example, a teaching method may work well for one gender but not for another. This is called an interaction effect. And third, effect size, just like in one-way ANOVA, effect size is factorial ANOVA tells you how strong the effects are. We can measure the strength of its main effect and interaction effect. This helps you understand whether the effects are meaningful or small. And for assumptions checking, factorial ANOVA also has assumptions. The data should be normally distributed, variances should be similar, and observations should be independent. Checking assumption is important before interpreting the result. And the last, analysis of covariance. ANCOVA. ANCOVA is an extension of ANOVA. It allows you to control an additional variable called covariance. For example, if we want to compare teaching methods but control student use ANCOVA. This makes the analysis more precise and fair. So that's all for me. The next material will be explained by my friend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Narliani and Aisha, for the explanation for chapter 4. And let's move to the chapter 5. This is the last chapter, and it will be presented by Icha. Icha, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Now I will present the final part of our discussion, which is the ending of the book. Overall, Learning Statistics with JAPS is a very helpful book for beginners, especially psychology students. The book explains statistical concepts step by step, starting from statistic, probability, hypothesis testing, t-test, ANOVA, correlation, and regression. One of the strengths of this book is that it combines theory and practical application using JAP software. The explanations are clear and not too complicated, so students can follow the material more easily. In conclusion, this book makes statistics less intimidating and more accessible for students who are learning statistics for the first time. Okay, next. Next is alternatives. Besides this book, there are several alternatives that students can use to learn statistics. One alternative is Discovering Statistics using IBM SPSS Statistic by Andy Field. This book provides detailed Okay, now future prospect. Looking at the future prospect, statistical literacy is becoming increasingly important in academic research and professional fields. Software like JAPS will likely wait guys, ulang di sini ya. Okay, now future prospect. Looking at the future prospect, statistical literacy is becoming increasingly important in academic research and professional fields. Software like JAPS will likely continue to develop with more advanced feature. In addition, Bayesian statistic, which is introduced at the end of this book, is becoming more widely used in research. This book helps students build a strong foundation in statistics and encourage independent data analysis skills. Therefore, it has good potential to remain relevant for future students and researchers. In the future, tools like JAPS may become a standard software for learning and conducting statistical analysis. Okay, maybe that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Cha, for the explanation. Okay, let's move on to Q&A session. For the audience, if you guys have a question to ask, please turn on your microphone, and maybe if you want to turn on your cam, it's okay. So who wants to ask for the first?
Can I ask?
Okay, yes, you can. Please introduce yourself first.
Okay, so my name is Rahmatul Zahra Maulida. I will ask a question. If a study has high statistical significance but low validity DT, can we try? Or please explain your reasoning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Zahra. So who wants to ask again? Okay, Selfie.
Okay, so I want to ask some question. You have been mentioned about Simpson paradox. So my question is, how can Simpson paradox change the way we interpret data in real-life situation?
Okay, thank you for the question, Selfie. So let's move to the next question. Who wants to ask again? Anyone?
Me.
Okay, please introduce yourself.
So my name is Naila Saada, and I want to ask about why is research design just as important as statistical analysis and in producing trustworthy results?
Okay, that's all.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Naila, for the question. Maybe who wants to ask again? If there is no one, maybe the presenter can answer the question. So we have 3 questions in this session. Please answer the question. Who wants to answer first?
Okay, I will answer Selby's question. The question is, how can Simpson paradox change the way we interpret data in real life situation? So the answer is, Simpson's paradox show that overall data can give a different conclusion compared to group data. Trust general results without checking deeper details. And in real life, this teaches us to analyze data carefully and consider different factors before making conclusions. Okay, maybe that's all. Healthy, that's clear.
Yeah, maybe that's clear. Okay, thank you so much, Irma, for the answering the selfie question. Okay, next, who want to answer the next question?
Okay, I will answer Jahra question. His question is, question is, If a study has high statistical significance but low validity, can we trust the result? Explain your reasoning. The answer is no, we cannot fully trust the result. Statistical significance only show that the result is unlikely to happen by chance. However, if validity is low, the study may not measure what is intended to measure. This means the conclusion might not reflect reality, even if the numbers look significant. Is it enough, Jahra?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dora, for the answering Zahra question. So, you want to answer again?
Okay, I will answer Naila question. The question is, why is research design just as important as statistical analysis in producing trustworthy research? Okay, this is very good question, and I will answer the question. Okay, my answer: research design determines how data is collected and how variables are controlled. Even if the statistical analysis is correct, a poor research design can produce misleading results. Therefore, a strong research design ensures that the data is valid and meaningful before it is analyzed. Okay, that is my answer. Naila, are you understand? Or maybe it is
Yes,
enough?
yes,
Okay.
enough. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you for the answering, Narliani. So, before I close the Q&A session, did you guys did you guys have another question for this material?
No.
Yes, I have question.
Okay, Safarina, please ask your question.
So my question is, okay, my question is, if humans naturally have bias, can we ever be completely objective in research? Why or why not?
Okay, thank you, Safarina, for the question. Maybe the presenter to need time to think the answer.
Okay.
Just wait a minute.
Okay, now I will answer Sabrina's question. Wait. So your question is, if humans naturally have bias, can we ever be completely objective in research? Why or why not? Is that right?
Yes,
So,
that's your question.
okay. The answer is humans cannot be completely objective because bias is part of human thinking. We are influenced by our experiences, beliefs, and expectations. However, we can reduce bias by using statistics, clear research methods, and standardized procedures. So, while perfect objectivity may not be possible, we can make research more objective by following scientific methods. Okay, I think that's all. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you. It's clear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aisha, for answering the Sabrina question. I think Sabrina question is the last question for this session. So we move to the conclusion. So I think guys, that's all for our material for tonight. Thank you so much for your attendance and thank you so much for your joining our presentation today. We are really appreciate that. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.